really beautiful, a marble, small. It was called amber. Rick called me and said, "What are we going to name our daughter?" And I said, "I just dug up my 8th marble. She'll be an 8, and she'll be an amber." So they named her Amber Grace. Amber is the color that's closest to the throne. You talk about Heidi Baker. She's with them, I think, over there now. There's a generation that was born in this. And there's a new generation at around 13 right now that are awesome. How many years will it be before they attain priesthood? You know, 17 is the number of spiritual order.
How many marbles did you end up finding?
Well, I kept digging. And as I would dig them up, they would show where I was at. The biggest marble I got was, next to the biggest, was really ugly. It was called censorship.
Oh, Jesus, do we have to do this one?
And then, I think the 4th marble I dig up had a lot of gray in it and just a little blue. I had a lot of gray matter back there in the beginning in my prophecies and just a little really pure revelation. And after my censorship and shame, I dug up my 11th marble. It was nearly all white with just a little gray in it. You need the gray matter, but it was all white. Then I dig up the biggest one of all. It was amber. That is my breastplate. I've got these marbles put on a cardboard. And that big one, light shines in it real strange. There's like a light in it all of itself. I've still got my breastplate at home. I've got my marbles. What about y'all? They were lost in the garden. They've been found.
And that was part of my stories of growing up in that kind of parabolic, strange culture. And I'd go over to BJ's house, and he'd always say to all of us next generation pups, and he'd say, "Well, did you get it?" And we all look at him and lie. And we'd say, "Yeah, we got it." And then we'd get in my car and we'd turn to each other and we'd go, "Did you understand a thing he said?" So he gave me a ton of stuff to chew on, and I ended up with my wife finding 37 hand-carved, ancient, white marbles. We had to get down on our hands and knees to find them.
Oh, I guess.
In the middle of the rain, in amongst a Moravian people. And I now have in a vase at my house 37 white marbles, because we can now have the mind of Christ.
Oh, absolutely. So back there, at different times, I would be told to go out and dig in my garden.
Yep.
And one of the visions was this: go out and dig here. And a millionaire is going to call you. So that was really strange. I went out and I began to dig. And I dug up something that looked like a brick. So I dug it up and looked at it. And in my vision, I was told that the millionaire was going to call me. And it was me to raise $1 million for Russia.
That's right.
And each dollar would be a soul.
That's right.
And I was told to, what I dug up, I was to give to Noel Alexander. And God was going to give him $1,000 when I did. And that was going to be 1,000 of souls that would take place in Russia. So I began to...
This is before communism had fallen. I was with Bob Jones the first time that we were together at the church I used to pastor many years ago at that's the fall retreat. And Bob stops. And everybody was coming up in line, stops over a couple, and he says, because of the fasting that's on this woman, and she was a private faster, she was in the middle or just finished a 40-day fast. She says, because of the authority that's on her, I now have permission to say this. And he started prophesying, first time publicly, about cities of refuge, about how the walls of communism would come down, and then eventually that there would become another persecution of anti-Semitism against the Jewish people, particularly in the land of the north, and they would have to flee. And so you got to put the whole frame around some of these words, and some of this has already all come to pass.
I got the dirt out of this bus, and it was a cast iron bus. And it had a vision of a 7-seater and a driver there. Yeah. And I poked out the dirt and looked at it, and found out later it was an antique bus that was only 1 year created in England, 1923. And the bus had on it Eagle Coach Line. So I called Noel Alexander up and told him to come over here, that I had a present for him. By the way, the bus had a driver in it. Our mode of transportation, we have a driver. We should relax and let him do the driving. Leave the driving to him. So, there's a man of the living sounds that come out of Tulsa to Kansas City. And he had a ministry over in Russia. And years before I saw him, and I told him, you got something for Russia. And you're going to be able to take it there. What's his name? Do you remember?
Terry Law.
Oh?
Terry Law.
Oh, yeah, Terry Law. And so Terry came, and I knew him. And he come there, and he was told to come to Kansas City to raise finances for Russia. So Kansas City Fellowship had a meeting to raise finances for Russia. And I think they wanted to test the prophecy. So how much offering do you get on a Tuesday morning? And that's when they decided to have the offering for Russia.
Now, this was not just a meeting, okay? Let me help it a little. This was a Passion for Jesus conference in Municipal Auditorium with a few thousand people there, okay? But what he's saying is true. Bob Weiner's there with the gift of faith. And Terry Law gives his message. And an offering was received. And it was written up in the Kansas City Star newspaper.
It was only 1,400,000. When I dug that bus up, a Viola come out and said, Bob, there's a man on the phone that wants to talk to you. I said, I wonder who that millionaire is. It'll be interesting. So I went in and this millionaire said, "Bob, you give me a word. And you told me that I had gone through 3 things. I'd only been ducked in the Jordan 3 times. And that I was going to get ducked 4 more times. I got so offended at you."